Thank you, Melissa, and I'm super pleased to be here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get here for most of the morning, and so I apologize if some of this is kind of rehashing some things that you talked about in a more general sense. But as Melissa suggested, I'm going to give you an overview of a project that really started with work that Ulster County Department of the Environment did with sponsorship from the Ulster County Legislature, as Melissa mentioned, a study in 2023. And that the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency is taking from there and running with. We're calling it the REPower Project, which stands for Reuse Pathway for Zero Waste and Economic Resilience. And it's built around a central facility that I'll talk about, which we're calling the Reuse Innovation Center, which is the name proposed in the original study. So in the next 20 or 25 minutes, because we're a little late, but I know that lunch is next and it's never good to be up against people and eating lunch. So I'm going to still try to get us out of here at 12:30, but leave time for discussion and questions. But I'll go through the problem statement from the standpoint of a waste management agency and what is motivating us to do work around reuse. And, I'll also just point out that our executive director, Mark Ryder, is sitting in the back here. And so Mark is, you're welcome to chime in at any point. Mark is one of the spearheading, forces in some of this effort. I'll talk a little bit about some of our larger term goals as an agency that Mark has set for us.
You want to come speak to the webinar?
Oh, yeah, sure. Cool. High tech. And so I'll go over our project goals and the overview of the project, and then I'll dive deeper into what the business case is, why the agency is undertaking this work, and our implementation plan, how we're seeing this roll out. I'll even go into kind of the behind the scenes, under the hood, what the budget and the pro forma financials that we expect for this project will be. We are an enterprise organization. We generate revenue from our services, so we need to think about this as a business would, and so we'll go through that. And then we'll talk about how we're going to raise the funds for it. And I'll end with the next steps that we're seeking to implement over the next year or two as we get launched with this. Uh-oh, we've lost connection here.
Is it not going forward?
No.
Try now.
There we go. Great. So the problem statement, why we're in this work. In Ulster County, there's nearly 265,000 tons of waste generated. That was back in 2023, based on a survey that our recycling outreach team does to all waste haulers, waste generators in the county. That includes all forms of waste. In the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency, we handle all of the MSW, municipal solid waste, that's generated in the county. The county has a flow control law that means that all MSW has to come to our agency. That's about 100,000 tons of household and institutional waste, commercial waste that comes to us. And in addition to that, we receive about 40,000 tons of commercial construction and demolition debris. So we as an agency handle about 140,000 of that 265,000 tons, and the rest is handled as construction and demolition debris by private contractors, private haulers. Of that total amount, only 27% is currently being diverted. Despite successful recycling and composting programs in Ulster County, Ulster County for many years has been a leader in recycling and composting. We have a fairly high diversion rate compared to other places in the state, but it's still not enough. It's only 27% of that total figure. So the remaining 73% is sent via tractor trailers, 240 miles each way to the Seneca Meadows landfill up near Rochester, which has a significant, as you can imagine, a significant impact in terms of carbon emissions, transportation emissions, as well as the processing emissions at a landfill. In 2023, that cost our agency $11 million and contributed 87,000 metric tons of carbon equivalent, CO2 equivalent emissions. And that's up to about 14 million, I think, Mark, is our latest budget. So it's been, climbing rapidly as the cost of disposal increases with shortages in landfill capacity and as the cost of transportation increases.
Give us 1 second.
Yep. All right.
There we go.
So what is this REPower project? So it's a circular economy initiative. Melissa mentioned that Sustainable Hudson Valley and Circularly.co, a local circular economy business, are working with the agency on a larger circular economy strategic plan. The idea here being that we can do all that we can to divert the waste that comes to the agency away from landfill or incineration. But in the end, this is a bigger societal problem that has to do with the take, make, waste model that we've all kind of come accustomed to as consumers. And we need to start to shift that if we're really going to reach higher diversion levels. And so this is our effort in that larger circular economy. to divert reusable goods and materials in order to reduce the amount of waste that we send to landfills. It complements, it's not a replacement for, but it complements all of our recycling and composting programs, creating really what we see as a new materials management pathway at the agency, a new way to handle materials through reuse. In the 70s, recycling was new. Reuse is the recycling of our current era. A network of partnerships is going to be needed. We are not the only agency that has to be involved in this. It's going to involve working closely with the county that's been a long-term partner in our work, but also with individual consumers and private businesses. This will be a whole team effort, and it's going to involve physical sites throughout the county. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Those sites will collect, store, repair, refurbish, and distribute reusable goods and materials. We've kind of cast a broad net in terms of the goals that the agency is looking to achieve here. I'll start with the first one and spend a couple of minutes on it because this is really the heart of why this is important to the Ulster County Resource Recovery Agency. We have traditionally been an agency that sees our primary role as moving material, accepting it from individual households and haulers and communities, and then moving it to its final destination at a landfill. But increasingly, we understand, as everybody seems to understand, that that's no longer an acceptable final result. And so under Mark's leadership, the agency has set a goal to divert 90% of the waste that comes to our agency away from landfills and incineration. That's a long-term goal for 2050. And in the interim, we've set goals for in 2030, reaching 30% diversion, in 2040, reaching 60% to then get to 90% by 2050. That's a little bit, it's basically tied to the state's solid waste goals. The state has set a goal for 2050 of 85% diversion. We're kind of going on a zero waste threshold, which traditionally zero waste is 90% diversion. And so we've adopted that as our 2050 stretch goal. This will be one part of that. And in fact, as I'll get into a little later, it is not the largest means by which we will divert waste from landfills and incinerators, but we see it as critically important for a number of reasons. First of all, there's an economic opportunity here that I'll get into in addition to environmental benefits. And it's, part of our effort to try to shift the kind of cultural lens on how we waste things. And so we see it as important. In addition to that primary goal, we're also seeking to support reuse, repair, and deconstruction jobs in the community and other economic benefit, generate revenue to support this as an enterprise through the sale of those reclaimed materials and products, educate and eventually change behaviors of the public based on the benefits of reuse, repair, and deconstruction, extend the lifespan of materials so that we can reduce resource consumption, and focus on the built environment by focusing on deconstruction and building practices to minimize construction waste. All right, project overview. So this draws on a study from 2023, which I'll go into in more detail, but quickly, let me tell you what this project really means. So the first thing is a hub facility. We're creating a physical hub facility in the Kingston area. This was included in the 2023 study. It was called the Reuse Innovation Center. We still see that name as being relevant for it. It's a place where we would have a centralized collection site and warehouse for public members of the public to donate reusable goods and materials, for us to direct diverted waste from the Resource Recovery Agency, and to handle deconstruction and salvage building materials. In this facility, there will be a fairly sophisticated inventory management system. So logging, eventually cleaning and sorting and doing minor repairs to incoming materials, pricing them, and then marketing and merchandising them. And as well, the focus of this, as kind of extending from the 2023 study, the term innovation in this center is really about developing markets for reusable goods and materials. And so the idea is to, first of all, do retail and wholesale sales out of this facility, but eventually to also identify and then incubate reuse, repair, and remanufacturing ventures, both through physical space at the center and then through off-take agreements with those businesses for materials that we see as viable for redirection from the landfill. So it'll have retail sales, so direct-to-consumer sales. That'll focus on bulky items that are difficult to transport. This will be a facility for those. And then as well, we'll have commercial business-to-business sales. Those will look like wholesale supplying to existing retailers and manufacturers, and also focus on deconstruction and building materials for sales to contractors. Finally, we'll also have education and training opportunities in the site because it's a recognized fact that some of the changes in behavior, especially for contractors, are going to require retraining, retooling. And so we'll be looking to partner with the trades, with our local BOCES and SUNY Ulster to train in deconstruction, and also hope to provide a tool library to support repair cafes in recognition really of the impetus for all this work, which was our local champion, the late John Weidemann, who established our Hudson Valley Repair Cafe program with now over 70 sites, and so hope to see them located there as well.
Can you describe what is deconstruction?
Yeah, let me take a pause and talk a little bit about that. So everybody's familiar with what happens if you have to demolish a building.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you end up with a lot of dumpsters that are just filled with the material that comes out of that building. Instead, most of that building material can be recycled if it's properly taken apart rather than just hit with a hammer. And so deconstruction is the idea that we can take that apart piece by piece, and the pieces that are usable can then be reused. And this is a practice that has been in place in some parts of the US for quite some time now. There's some successful examples on the West Coast. Was just talking with some people last night about their experience in Portland. Portland was one of the first cities to adopt a deconstruction ordinance that required certain buildings that were of a certain age, which the age ties to what materials are likely in that building, which are very reusable materials. A lot of this is older, high-value lumber that's in those buildings. And so the ordinance said you have to do this. And then out of that ordinance sprung a kind of an industry, a cottage industry initially, but now a full-fledged industry of contractors that will do that deconstruction instead of demolition. And so that's what we're looking to support here. There's been a pretty robust conversation over the years in Ulster County about mandating deconstruction. It has not become a law at any municipality or at the county level yet, but there's been that discussion. And the hope is that through this work, we can lay some of the groundwork that would make that commercially viable, more palatable, quicker to adopt if that actually becomes a regulatory requirement.
Oh, can I just throw in one more thing? Our consultant who's really worked in Bennett has done like 200 deconstruction projects, and he has tracked the economics of that. And it's more labor intensive, so it costs more upfront, but it generates resellable materials. So it ends up in his, little mini study being cost competitive, being a wash. So it really, we've learned that it really is a plausible thing.
Yeah, and we can get into that a little more. I think it's, as Melissa says, there's a market failure there, really, is what it is. And so that's part of what, this center, as an innovation center, is attempting to resolve. We had a great conversation with a couple of green builders last night at a forum that we held, who were super excited about this. And, the practical example that resonated with them is that if they're doing deconstruction, the problem is they don't have somewhere to put all that material until they can use it on a later job. And so the market maker is really just space that these construction contractors can put material that they know they will use again, but they don't have the physical space themselves to do that. So, so it's that as an example. Yeah, Mark, you want to add?
Just add one piece in, it's not only revenue from the sale of those goods, it's cost avoidance. So if somebody brings C&D material to our agency, we charge in 2026, it'll be $150 per ton. And then that goes to a landfill. Other places charge other tipping fees, but it's costing them money to get rid of the materials because they break it and it becomes waste. Whereas if they take it apart carefully, it becomes revenues.
Perfect. Yeah, question in the back.
Question two is, the presence of toxins, wherever they might be, asbestos, what? Where is that testing done at the site? Is it before it's brought? Before
Yeah.
Before it's taken apart, and then who provides those services? What is that part of it?
That's usually environmental consultants and contractors that handle that, and that would be before the deconstruction or the demolition. That's really the earliest stage of this. And those materials are sorted out and handled through, licensed disposal contractors and sites. Yeah, yes.
You mentioned the local green builders who want to make use of this material. Do you have a list of them?
Yes, we have a small but mighty and growing list of them. This is the project that Melissa and Casey from Circularly, Melissa from Sustainable Hudson Valley are working on with us to engage those partners. So we had our first kickoff meeting last night with about 55 very enthusiastic people across architects, builders, engineers, contractors, repair and manufacturers, retailers and resellers and reuse stores and waste haulers and waste professionals. And so we're building that list in order to be able to do the outreach, have conversations like the quick one that we had last night about what would make this work for you and what are the things that we can do to support it. So that's work Melissa and Casey are helping us with. Okay, I'm gonna get back on the repower center though. That's all relevant and I'm eager to take questions. So if something comes up, just raise your hand or shout out and I can pause. I just went over one part of this repower project, which is the physical hub that we plan to have in the Kingston area. In addition to that, one of the, incredible things about Ulster County is as they all say, the size of Rhode Island. It's very spread out. It has some very rural areas in the kind of northwestern Catskills area, denser populations in the Kingston and along the Hudson River, but it's a geographically challenging area to serve for municipal solid waste and for reuse. And so we're lucky to have 19 municipally run transfer stations in Ulster County. We call them MRVCs, Municipal Recycling Drop Centers. And these are a network of sites that we plan to tap for this reuse work. They're run by towns, so we have to be sensitive. They're not our facility, but we contract with most of those towns to haul the MSW and recycling that they receive there back to our facility. And so we have a relationship with these towns. And so our intent is to encourage the towns to set up reuse facilities at those sites as well. These would probably look in most cases like Tioli sheds. For those that are familiar, this is a take it or leave it shed, just a shed where there are guidelines about what material can be brought to the shed. You can drop stuff off there that you want to see somebody reuse, and you can pick stuff off pick stuff up if you want something that's in the shed. And the idea is that any material that isn't immediately taken by local folks that want to take it from the shed would then be gathered periodically by our operator of the hub and brought back to the hub to market, refurbish, whatever needs to happen for it to actually be sold. So this is a map of those sites. You can see they're scattered throughout Ulster County, covering really all of the county. They're known sites that have existing materials management infrastructure, so we can work with the towns on doing this. We will also have other efforts in the future. We're working on a large composting expansion that will also happen at these sites. So they'll become our satellite locations for a lot of material management work. All right. In addition to the hub and the spokes, there's kind of a virtual effort here as well, which is to just grow the overall reuse and repair sector. It was amazing to me as we started to work with Melissa and Casey, how quickly we realized, and actually our own recycling outreach team back in January or February did an update to our website that lists all of the reuse and repair organizations in Ulster County. And maybe 3 or 4 years ago when we did that, there were a dozen. There are 70 or 80 or almost 100 of them now. And so this is a sector that is there. It's out there and you've all seen it, the refilleries, the thrift stores, consignment shops, the vintage stores, the Habitat restores and People's Places are local entities that do this. And so this is out there and we see this as an effort to kind of convene that sector,